The rope binding her wrists finally snapped as Celestine threw her pregnant body against the abandoned barn door one final time. Blood trickled from her raw knuckles, but freedom tasted sweeter than the metallic temps in her mouth. Behind her, the warehouse where the Morozov syndicate had held her for 3 weeks lay silent in the pre-dawn darkness, her captors drunk on vodka and overconfidence. She stumbled into the Colorado wilderness, her swollen belly making each step a monumental effort. The baby kicked frantically inside her, as if sensing the danger that pursued them both. Celestine pressed her hand against her stomach, whispering promises she wasn't sure she could keep. Just a little further, little one. Mama's going to find us help. The mountain air bit through her thin hospital gown, the same one she'd worn when Victor Morozov's men had snatched her from the Denver clinic 6 months into her pregnancy. They'd wanted leverage against her late husband's testimony, not realizing Joaquin had hidden the evidence so well that even she didn't know its location. Each breath formed clouds in the freezing air as she navigated by starlight through pine forests and rocky outcroppings. Her bare feet, cut and bleeding, left a trail she prayed the snow would cover before dawn brought her hunters. The contractions that had been threatening for days grew stronger with each mile, forcing her to stop and breathe through waves of pain that doubled her over. By the time the sun crested the mountain peaks, Celestine had put perhaps 5 miles between herself and captivity. But hypothermia was setting in, her lips turning blue as her body struggled to keep both herself and her baby warm. She'd heard gunshots echoing through the valley an hour ago. They knew she was gone. The sound of hoofbeats made her heart race with terror until she saw the lone rider approaching through the morning mist. Not the black SUVs she'd expected, but a man on horseback, his weathered face kind beneath a worn Stetson. He dismounted before his horse had fully stopped, his movements fluid and sure. Jesus Christ, what happened to you? Kairos Ranch's voice carried the warm drawl of someone who'd spent his life under open skies. He shrugged off his heavy coat. Without hesitation, wrapping it around her shivering form, "You're burning up with fever and freezing at the same time." They're coming for me," she managed through chattering teeth. "We'll get you both safe." His calloused hands were gentle as he lifted her onto his horse, climbing up behind her to share his warmth. "My ranch is just over that ridge. Can you hold on that long?" As they rode toward safety, Celestine felt the first true hope she'd known in months. But the distant sound of engines told her their ordeal was far from over. The man holding her, the stranger who'd appeared like an answer to prayer, would soon learn that saving her meant inheriting her war. Kairos's ranch house materialized from the mountain mist like something from a dream. Weathered wood and stone that seemed to grow from the earth itself. He carried Celestine inside with the same careful strength he'd shown with injured horses, laying her gently on the couch beside a crackling fireplace. "Drink this," he said, pressing a mug of warm broth into her hands. "Small sips. Your body needs to warm up gradually." She studied his face and the firelight's strong jaw, shadowed with stubble. Eyes the color of storm clouds, hands that spoke of honest work. Nothing like the soft, cruel men who'd held her captive. When he knelt to examine her feet, cleaning and bandaging her cuts with practiced efficiency, she flinched. "I used to be a combat medic," he explained quietly. "Before I inherited this place, you're safe here, I promise. You don't understand." Her voice cracked with exhaustion and fear. "They killed my husband for what he knew. They'll kill anyone who helps me. Then we'd better make sure they don't find you." Kairos stood, his full height impressive even in the low-ceilinged room. "This ranch has been in my family for 4 generations. We've weathered worse storms than whatever's chasing you." The contraction seized her without warning, doubling her over with a cry of pain. Kairos was beside her instantly, his hands steady on her shoulders as she breathed through it. When the pain subsided, she saw the concern in his eyes. "How far along are you?" 8 months?" she gasped. "The stress. It's bringing on early labor. The nearest hospital is 40 miles through mountain passes. In this weather, with them, hunting you, ... double quotes, he shook his head. "I've delivered foals in worse conditions than this. If your baby decides to come tonight, we'll manage." The absurdity of it struck her, escaped from Russian mobsters, only to potentially give birth in a stranger's living room. But something in Kairos's calm confidence made her believe it might actually work. "What's your name?" she asked. "Kairos Ranch, and you are Celestine?" She hesitated, then added, "Voss, my married name." "Well, Celestine Voss, you picked a hell of a night to visit my ranch." His smile was warm despite the circumstances. "But you're welcome to stay as long as you need." The rumble of engines in the distance made them both freeze. Kairos moved to the window, peering through a gap in the curtains. 3 vehicles, maybe? 4. They're still a few miles out, but they're coming this way. "I'm sorry," Celestine whispered. "I've brought death to your door." "You've brought life," he corrected, glancing at her belly. "I'll be damned if I let them take either of you." He disappeared into another room, returning with a rifle and a determined expression. "There's a root cellar beneath the kitchen. It's hidden behind a false wall. You'll be safe there while I deal with our visitors. Don't you dare go out there alone. This is my land," Kairos said simply, "and you're under my protection now. That means something here." As he helped her to the hidden cellar, Celestine felt something she hadn't experienced since Joaquin's death, someone willing to fight for her. The baby kicked, as if agreeing, and she wondered if her child would be born not just free, but loved. The root cellar smelled of earth and potatoes. A comforting darkness that couldn't quite muffle the sound of vehicles surrounding the ranch house. Celestine pressed her ear to the wooden ceiling, listening to Kairos's boots move across the floor above as he prepared for whatever was coming. "This is private property," his voice carried clearly through the night air. "State your business." "We're looking for escaped prisoner," came the reply in heavily accented English. "Dangerous woman, very pregnant. You see her?" "Haven't seen anyone but my horses and cattle today." Celestine's heart hammered as she recognized the voice Dmitri, Victor's enforcer, a man who'd taken particular pleasure in describing how he'd dispose of her baby after she gave birth. Her hands instinctively wrapped around her belly, feeling the child move restlessly inside her. "You mind if we search your house?" Dimitri's tone carried the false politeness of a predator playing with prey. "Just to be sure you're not hiding anything." "I mind very much. This is Colorado, not some backwater where you can push people around. You want to search my property? You bring a warrant." A gunshot shattered the mountain silence, followed by the sound of splintering wood. Celestine bit back a scream as another contraction seized her, the stress and fear accelerating her labor with each passing moment. "Was that supposed to intimidate me?" Kairos's voice held steel now. "Because all you've done is commit a felony on my land? You don't understand who you're dealing with, Cowboy. No, you don't understand who you're dealing with. This ranch has been in my family for over a century. We've fought off claim jumpers, cattle rustlers, and government agents. You think a few Russian tourists scare me?" Above her, Celestine heard the distinctive sound of a lever-action rifle being cocked. Kairos had positioned himself well, probably behind the heavy oak table near the front window, using furniture as cover. "Last chance, old man. Give us the woman, and we leave you alive. Here's my counter-off. Get off my land before I start shooting, and I won't bury you in the back 40? The next few minutes exploded into chaos. Automatic weapons fire shattered windows and splintered walls, while Kairos's rifle answered with measured, deadly precision. Celestine counted at least 5 distinct weapons firing, meaning he was outnumbered badly. But the ranch house had been built to withstand harsh mountain winter's thick walls, and solid construction that turned it into an improvised fortress. A man screamed in pain, then another. Kairos was making his shots count. "Dmitri," someone shouted in Russian. "He's got Yuri and Pavel." "Burn him out," came the snarled response. "If we can't have the woman, we'll settle for revenge." The smell of smoke began filtering into the cellar as flames licked at the outside walls. Celestine felt panic rising in her throat. If the house burned, she'd be trapped. But if she tried to escape, she'd lead them straight to her hiding spot. Another contraction hit, stronger than before. She realized with crystalline clarity that her baby was coming, whether she wanted it to or not. The child inside her had decided that this night, in this place surrounded by violence and flame, was the moment to enter the world. Kairos," she whispered, knowing he couldn't hear her. "Please don't die. Please don't leave us alone." Above her, the gunfire intensified. The smoke grew thicker as flames climbed the exterior walls, and Celestine realized that hiding was no longer an option. Her water had broken 20 minutes ago, and the contractions were coming fast, now too fast. Her body had decided that her baby would be born tonight in this cellar. While war raged above, she bit down on her torn sleeve to muffle her cries as another wave of pain crashed over her. The gunfire had become sporadic. Either Kairos was running low on ammunition, or he was being more selective with his shots. She'd counted at least 2 screams from outside, suggesting his marksmanship was taking its toll. "Ah! Come on, little one," she whispered to her belly. "We have to be quiet. Just for a little longer." The baby seemed to understand the urgency, dropping lower with each contraction. Celestine had read about birth in the parenting books Joaquin had bought, but nothing had prepared her for the primal intensity of her body taking over completely. She was no longer Celestine the widow, or Celestine the captive. She was simply a woman bringing life into a world that seemed determined to destroy it. Above her, something heavy crashed to the floor. The gunfire stopped abruptly, and she heard Kairos's voice, strained but alive. "That's for down. How many more of you want to die for your boss?" "Enough." Dimitri's voice was closer now, probably inside the house. "You think you've won something? We know she's here. I'll tear this place apart board by board." "Then you'd better hope you find her before the sheriff gets here," Kairos replied, "'cause I called this in to the state police 20 minutes ago. They're en route with a full tactical team." It was a bluff. Celestine was certain of it. Nearest town was 40 miles away, and she'd seen no telephone lines to the ranch. But it was a good bluff, delivered with the calm confidence of a man who'd faced death before. The baby crowned just as she heard footsteps directly above her hiding spot. Celestine pressed her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. As she felt her child's head emerge into the world, the urge to push was overwhelming, but she fought it, trying to control the birth through sheer will. "Search every room," Dimitri ordered. "Check for hidden spaces. She's here somewhere." Another contraction, and the baby's shoulders cleared. Celestine caught her daughter. Somehow she knew it was a daughter, in her shaking hands, feeling the warm weight of new life even as destruction raged around them. The child was perfect, tiny but breathing, her eyes blinking in the dim light that filtered through the cellar's ventilation slats. "Hello, brave girl," Celestine whispered, tears mixing with blood and sweat on her face. "Welcome to the world." The baby made a soft mewling sound, and Celestine's heart stopped. Any louder, and they'd be discovered. She pulled the child against her chest, skin to skin, hoping her warmth would comfort the newborn into silence. Above them, she heard the distinctive sound of a trap door being tried. They'd found the entrance to the cellar. "Locked," someone reported in Russian. "Blow it open," Dimitri commanded. Celestine closed her eyes and held her daughter close, wondering if these would be their last moments together. But instead of an explosion, she heard Kairos's voice, deadly calm. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." The rifle shot that followed was followed by another scream. She realized their protector wasn't finished fighting yet. The baby remained perfectly quiet against Celestine's chest, as if she understood that silence meant survival. Above them, the battle had shifted. She could hear Kairos moving through the house with the practiced stealth of a soldier, turning the tables on men who'd thought they were hunting prey. "Dimitri," a panicked voice called out in Russian, "is picking us off one by one. Shut up and find the woman." Dimitri's voice cracked with frustration. "She's got to be here somewhere." A different voice, younger and more frightened, "Maybe she's not here. Maybe she kept running." Her footprints led straight to this ranch, Dimitri snarled. "She's bleeding, she's pregnant, and she's scared. Where else would she go?" Celestine felt a fierce pride in Kairos's tactical prowess. He'd spent years in combat zones, and it showed. These men might be killers, but they were urban predators out of their element. While he was defending territory he knew intimately. Another gunshot, followed by a heavy thud. Then silence. "Dimitri." The young voice was trembling now. Dmitri, where are you? Right here came Kairos' voice, perfectly calm. Your friend is taking a nap, permanently. Don't shoot. I surrender. Smart choice. Now drop your weapons. And get on your knees. Celestine heard the clatter of guns hitting the floor, followed by the sound of someone heavy being forced to the ground. Her daughter stirred slightly, making a tiny sound that might have been a yawn. The child was adapting to the world with remarkable calm, as if she'd inherited her mother's survival instincts. How many more of you are there? Kairos demanded. Just me and Pavel outside, the young man replied. But he's not moving. Good, now you're going to tell me exactly who sent you and why. Viktor Morozov. He wants the woman her husband stole something from him. Money or information, something. Important? What's your name? Alexei? Look, I don't want to die here. I was just driving. I didn't sign up for this. Then you're going to do exactly what I tell you, Alexei. You're going to walk out of here, get in your vehicle, and drive back to wherever you came from. You're going to tell Viktor Morozov that. The woman is under the protection of the ranch family, and if he sends anyone else, they won't be going home. He'll kill me for failing. That's your problem. But I guarantee you'll die tonight if you don't follow my instructions. Celestine heard footsteps moving toward the front door, then the sound of an engine starting. The young man had chosen life. Over loyalty, a smart decision that probably saved him from joining his companions. After several minutes of silence, she heard Kairos' voice directly above her. Celestine, it's safe now. I'm going to open the trapdoor. Light flooded the cellar as the heavy wooden panel swung up. Kairos looked down at her, his face streaked with soot and blood, his eyes widening as he saw the bundle in her arms. I'll be damned, he breathed. When did that happen? About 10 minutes ago, she replied, exhaustion making her voice barely a whisper. Meet my daughter. He climbed down into the cellar with surprising grace for such a large man, kneeling beside her in the cramped space. She's beautiful. You did good, Mama. We did good, she corrected. You saved our lives, and you brought new life into the world while I was playing soldier. He gently touched the baby's tiny hand, and Celestine felt something shift in her chest. Not just gratitude, but something deeper. What's her name? I don't know yet. She's only been here for 15 minutes. How about Dawn? She was born at the end of the longest night of your life. Celestine looked down at her daughter, seeing how the name fit the child's peaceful expression. Dawn Ranch, she whispered. That sounds perfect. Beatrice's eyes widened. Ranch, if you'll have us, she said quietly. Both of us. His answer was in the gentle way he helped her to her feet, cradling both mother and child as if they were precious beyond measure. 3 weeks later, Celestine stood in the kitchen of the ranch house, watching Kairos repair the last of the bullet holes in the walls. Dawn slept peacefully in a makeshift crib he'd crafted from an old wooden crate, her tiny fists curled against her cheeks. The baby had thrived in the mountain air, growing stronger each day. You don't have to do that, she said, stirring a pot of stew. I can hire contractors once I figure out my finances. This is my home, he replied, not looking up from his work. Besides, I've been meaning to renovate for years. Your Russian friends just gave me an excuse to finally get started. She'd told him everything over the past weeks about Joaquin's work as a federal accountant. It's about the evidence he'd hidden somewhere that proved Viktor Morozov's money laundering operation, about the men who'd killed her husband and then held her captive for months. Kairos had listened without judgment, his steady presence making the memories easier to bear. The FBI called again, she said. They want to put me in witness protection. What did you tell them? That I'd think about it. She paused, then added. Quietly, they say, Viktor won't stop. That he'll keep sending people until he gets what he wants. Do you know where your husband hid the evidence? I think so. Joaquin was obsessed with an old book, Treasure Island. He read it over and over, claimed it was his favorite from childhood, but he never read fiction, ever. She smiled sadly. I think the evidence is hidden in our old house in Denver, probably inside that book somehow. Then we'll get it, Kairos said simply. Together. It's too dangerous. If they catch us, they won't. He set down his hammer and turned to face her. Celestine, these past weeks, having you and Dawn here, it's changed everything.
This
place was just a house before. Now it's a home. She felt her heart skip as he crossed the room to where she stood. In the week since Dawn's birth, they developed an easy intimacy. Not romantic, not yet, but something deeper than friendship. He'd held her when the nightmares came, had walked the floors with a colicky baby so she could sleep, had somehow made her feel safe for the first time in months. Read in her crib, making soft baby sounds that made both adults smile. Celestine picked up her daughter, feeling the familiar warmth of the child against her chest. In 3 weeks, Dawn had become the center of their small universe, the living. Proof that love could triumph over violence. How? She asked. How do we end this? We give Victor exactly what he wants, Kairos said. And then we make sure he never bothers another soul. That night, as they sat before the fireplace making plans, Celestine realized that she'd found something she'd never expected. Not just safety, but a true partner. Someone willing to fight for their future as fiercely as she was. Dawn slept peacefully. Between them, unaware that her parents were planning to walk into danger to secure her freedom, but for the first time since Joaquin's death, Celestine felt truly hopeful about what tomorrow might bring. The Denver house looked exactly as Celestine had left it 6 months ago. Before Victor's men had shattered her world, Kairos kept watch. From the porch, while she searched Joaquin's study, Dawn sleeping in a carrier strapped to her chest. Every creak of the old house made her jump, but Kairos's presence gave her courage. Found it, she whispered, pulling the worn copy of Treasure Island from its place on the shelf. The book fell open to reveal a hollowed-out section containing a flash drive and a letter in Joaquin's handwriting. If you're reading this, mi amor, then I'm probably dead and you're in terrible danger. Shh. The drive contains everything: bank records, wire transfers, coded communications, enough to destroy Morozov's entire operation. Give it to Agent Martinez at the FBI. He's clean. I love you always. Tears blurred her vision as she read her husband's final message. Even in death, he'd tried to protect her. We've got company, Kairos called softly. 3 cars, approaching fast. They'd expected this. Victor's surveillance of the house had been inevitable once word spread through the underworld that Celestine was alive and free. But they'd prepared for this confrontation, and they weren't alone. This is FBI, you're surrounded. Agent Martinez's voice echoed through the evening air. Drop your weapons and surrender. The tactical team had been waiting in position for hours. Kairos had contacted them through military channels, bypassing the normal bureaucracy that might have given Victor a warning. Sometimes the direct approach was the most effective. Gunfire erupted outside, but it lasted only minutes. When the shooting stopped, Kairos appeared in the doorway. It's over. They got Victor and his remaining men. Celestine sank into Joaquin's old chair, clutching the flash drive that had cost so much blood and pain. Dawn stirred against her chest, blue eyes opening to look up at her mother with perfect trust. Agent Martinez wants to debrief you, Kairos continued. But he says you're free to go after that. No witness protection needed. There's no one left to testify against. 6 months later, Celestine stood in the small church in Pine Ridge, Colorado, wearing a simple white dress and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. Dawn, now almost a year old, sat in the front pew in the arms of Mrs. Patterson, the ranch's nearest neighbor, who'd become like a grandmother to the child. Do you, Kairos Ranch, take Celestine to be your wife? Pastor Williams asked. I do, he replied, his voice steady and sure. I promise to love and protect both her and Dawn for as long as I live. And do you, Celestine, take Kairos to be your husband? She looked into his storm-gray eyes, seeing the man who'd saved her life and given her a future worth living. Do. I promise to love you and build a life with you that honors the gift we've been given. As they kissed, Dawn clapped her tiny hands and babbled something that might have been approval. The small congregation laughed, and Celestine felt joy fill her heart completely. That evening, as they sat on the porch of their home watching the sunset paint the mountains gold, Dawn took her first step, stottering between her parents with determined concentration. Kairos caught her as she fell, spinning her around until she giggled with delight. Mama, Dada, she said clearly, her first real words. That's right, baby girl, Celestine said, pulling them both into her arms. We're your mama and dada, and we're never letting you go. The ranch stretched out before them, vast and peaceful under the Colorado sky. Somewhere in the distance, cattle lowed softly, and the wind carried the scent of pine and promise. Found their sanctuary, their love, and their future in this place where healing was possible, and new beginnings bloomed like wildflowers after winter. Viktor Morzov was dead. His empire dismantled, his threat ended forever. But more importantly, love had triumphed over fear. A family had been born from the ashes of tragedy. Dawn Ranch would grow up knowing only safety and love. Her parents passed a distant memory compared to the bright future that stretched ahead of them all.